you want to know how to eat when you're in a restaurant in Italy?
Well, then, two Italian sisters living in Italy will tell you everything about how to eat, drink, and just live the way Italians really do.
Yeah, with no filters. That's important to say.
Yeah.
So this is a topic that makes us smile because it's obviously very obvious for us, but it is not obvious if you obviously come from another country.
Because nothing is ever obvious when it comes to culture, if you think about it.
Yeah, culture and eating, exactly. And so we thought that it was time to touch this subject.
Actually, it would be nice. Why don't you guys come? Just imagine having dinner with us, okay? So let's meet at the restaurant, okay? And so we'll take you and we'll guide you through these non-obvious things.
That's true.
First of all, Betty, I mean, for instance,
yes.
What time do Italians actually go to a restaurant?
Now, this is very important because Italians eat dinner late. Again, it depends where you are in Italy. In the northern part of Italy, you might eat a little bit earlier. In the southern part of Italy, you might eat a little bit later. But as a base, consider that we have dinner around 8:30.
Yeah. So lunch would be around, like restaurants would open at around noon, 12:30.
Yes.
And they close, the kitchens usually close at 3 p.m.
Yes. And this is something that this is a tip on how to spot tourist traps, but that's for us.
And then dinner would be, restaurants usually start at 7:30 p.m.
Yes, that's when the kitchens open.
And then they continue. It's not unusual until midnight, 1 a.m.
So if you find a restaurant that serves you pasta at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
It's a very accommodating restaurant.
Yes, it's a very accommodating restaurant, not to call it a tourist trap, but we won't call it a tourist trap.
No, we won't.
No, we won't.
A lot of restaurants have done that, but restaurants, and I'm sure when you come all the way to Italy, you would like to go to restaurants that locals go to. And so locals usually do not go to these restaurants that are open like from 9 a.m., constant kitchen open until midnight. No.
So let's go back to them having dinner with us.
Okay, are you gonna reserve? Who's gonna reserve?
I think we should. We're Italian.
Okay, fine. You make a reservation.
So it is always best to make a reservation when you go to a restaurant. Also because they know you're there. Rome, Italy tends to be pretty packed with people, and so it's nice to have your place reserved, especially when it's beautiful season. You want to have a table fuori, which means outside. Okay.
Yes.
And so let's say we meet at the restaurants. I made reservations around 8.
But let me add something about reservations. Usually, rarely do we have like blocks of reservation where they're going to ask you, are you coming to the 7:30 and you leave at 9 block? It's usually, they will find a spot. You'll say, I would like to be there at 8. Okay, we're 4 people. And then it's sort of like negotiating. You have to sort of negotiate your table. But it's always smart to call.
Yeah, always smart.
Okay, and then Benny?
So then we sit down.
At the table. Potrei avere il menù, per favore? Can I have the menu, please?
And you get this menu and you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, too many dishes. What do they all mean?
Now this is important. You should also watch this other video that we're sharing because it tells you how Italians eat. There are many, many courses.
So we go really in depth into each course.
Because that is what you'll see in the menu. You will see an appetizer, which is called antipasto. Then a first, like a pasta, whatever, which will be your primo.
Then you have your secondo, your contorno, and your dolce. So your dessert. So from all of this, according to what you're in the mood to eat, you don't have to have them all. Just so you know, when I usually go out for dinner, I love to have antipasto, and I love to have a secondo. I usually don't have a pasta unless it just wow. But that's what I like.
Or
and always dessert.
Or I would have an antipasto. Antipasto is like your little treat. It's a little treat, and then depends. If I have to get up like a primo, like a pasta or gnocchi, I will probably definitely get something that I would not make at home.
Exactly.
Very local.
And since we both cook a lot home from scratch. When you go out, you do things that you would not necessarily do at home.
Yes. Imagine, but we could also be at a pizzeria. So if we were at a pizzeria, so you obviously don't have all these courses because the pizza is going to be your main dish.
Sure.
But you can get all sorts of like fried foods.
As an antipasto.
As an antipasto. So you go for the local antipasto and then you order your pizza and then you have dessert. So the menu, you can sort of build it, but
Italians are known to be very, very generous. We're very generous people. We live and we're giving, but we do not share. I mean, you don't get a dish for the table. We don't do that.
Like you're not going to order one pizza and you have four.
No.
Like you order your own pizza because it's your own little experience, and obviously, we share slices. So I'm going to give you a slice in return.
Or you give me a slice back.
You give me your slice
but
back.
your slice was bigger than mine. That's with her. That happens with her. If she gives you a slice, it has to be the exact same or bigger.
Because it's like.
So we don't share.
We don't share.
We don't share. Everybody gets their own stuff, and people can try, of course, but you don't share. You don't get a platter for everybody.
But yeah, and also, especially if you're going to a non-touristy place and you want to experience the way that locals do, don't share. I mean, instead of saying, no, we're gonna have 2 pastas. Why don't you each get a different thing? Why don't you one gets an antipasto, the other one gets a secondo, the other one gets you play around and then you try your own little dishes, because you are here to have the local experience. And so that's what we do.
That's what
sometimes,
do.
It's like at the end you like order a full meal, but you're just having a bite of each, because sometimes when we go out for dinner, I may have a primo, she'll have a secondo, but then we sort of share.
But we share in that way. But that's her primo and it's my secondo.
Yes.
That's important.
Yeah.
Let's not get that confused.
Yeah, so do it as the locals do. Don't order. Also, because, let's also say this, the portions are not this much. That's why. So if you think that you're gonna get like a pasta dish that could feed the entire neighborhood, no, you're gonna get a portion that, depending, if the fancier the restaurant, the smaller the portions, the more like rustic the restaurants.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
That's why also it's not worth sharing, because I am sure that you can make it to the end of the meal eating everything. Also because you're probably going to a good place.
Yeah.
Right?
This is important. And something that
okay.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
May talk. Something that we always get asked during our tours or during our cooking classes is that people are amazed at the fact that you can actually sit at the dinner table as long as you wish, unless it's specified. But I think I've only gone to one restaurant where they actually gave us 90 minutes to eat.
That block reservation.
If not, the table is yours, and you can stay there as much as you want. They will not. We were in the States last year, remember? And we ordered, and the guy asked us if we wanted desserts, and we said, I don't know yet. And he goes, well, you have to tell me now, because I have to give you the bill. And that was surprising for us, because here you sit, you have to sometimes, they say you have to like beg the waiter to bring you the bill, but it's relaxing. You take your time. Eating is a social moment, especially if you go out to dinner. You supposedly go out with people that you care about. And so you take your time, you eat, you drink wine, you laugh, you talk. The waiter's going to come 6 times before you decide what you want to eat, because in the meantime, you're catching up and chatting about the stuff. And so take your time. Don't rush. We do not rush.
You do not
especially
rush.
when we eat.
Yeah, so you're there, and just enjoy your time, and that's part of the experience too, because it was surprising for us to nicely be
done at the
nicely.
restaurant. Yes,
and that is the local way of doing it. So it was fine. But when you're here, take your time.
Yes, and that's very important.
And then we finished eating. Did you finish eating? You're done? Okay.
Sometimes, because Italians are very generous, you might get offered a grappa or a digestivo. Accept it. Which means it's like this little liquor or something to close your meal,
to help you digest.
Everything you ate.
And then, so I was saying, you order the bill. We finish. Our stomachs are very happy, and we've had wine. We relaxed, and they bring us the bill. And then comes the big question: do I tip? How much is a tip? Is this enough?
No. Okay, that's important.
That's very important.
That is important. Tipping is if you really liked the waiter, if you like the service, then you tip the waiter. It's not mandatory. It's not an obligation, because the waiters, however, here are on a salary, so they're well paid. They're well paid. They don't live off tips, and so sometimes the service is included in the bill, and you know. So if you really enjoyed your service, then you give them a.
There's no fixed percentage. Like you don't have to leave 10, 15, 20, 5%. No, you know. So even and the tipping is even not expected to be high. So if you leave like €5, obviously depending on a restaurant,
Yeah.
But you know, you're going to a pizzeria, you can leave €5, 10 if you're very generous. But tipping is very optional. I wanted to add something that we have in Italy, and it is very confusing for foreigners.
Oh, that was so cute.
On the bill.
Yes.
There is a word, there's a term called coperto. Pane coperto.
No, coperto.
Coperto.
And it's very difficult to understand. And the other day I actually helped somebody at a restaurant who was saying that he did not order a coperto. I did not order a coperto. And yes, so a coperto is practically the cost of your setting, of your dishes, of the water, of the bread. Not of the water. Well, depends of your spot. That's a coperto, and it's always going to be very little. About depending €1, €2, €3 if you're at a very fancy place. But that's it. That's the cost to cover the cleaning, the managing of what you use to eat.
Yeah, because I've seen people have like a discussion, because obviously they don't understand, because it also includes, I was listening to what the restaurant owner was saying, and she was like, oh, but it also includes bread. And he was like, I don't eat bread. Because bread is for free. You know, when you go to a restaurant, it's in that expense. It's like all the base things that you need to enjoy your dinner. So you need your forks, your plates, some little bread, because that's what we nibble on as we wait for. So that, don't be surprised, don't be offended. Coperto is
and that
just
you find it
everywhere.
Every single restaurant will have a coperto, but it's on the bill, and so people are like, I didn't order this. And something that I would like to add, just as a little, do not expect the restaurant to bring you a bowl with olive oil and balsamic vinegar, where we'll talk about this eventually, where you we do not dip bread in oil.
No.
In a bowl on the side, because that's something that we get asked about. Why don't restaurants bring oil and balsamic where you dip your bread? We don't do that. If you want bread with olive oil, then you ask for a bruschetta, and that is an antipasto.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good tip, and we will eventually do a video about it, because you go into the world of extra virgin olive oil and we'll better explain. But this is basically how you go and enjoy a dinner as a local when you come to Italy. It was great having dinner with you.